Here are my top 10 defensive tackles or interior defensive linemen for the 2023 NFL season. Of course, these are preseason rankings. Let's get right into this video. Starting off my list, I have DeForest Buckner at 10. Ever since Buckner broke out with the San Francisco 49ers back in 2018, he's consistently been a top 15 to 10 tackle in the league. As a pass rusher, DeForest Buckner is up there with the best defensive tackles. He finished with 8 sacks in 2022 and had 29 pressures, which was good for 5th for interior defensive linemen. He also set his career high in stuffs with 12. He and Yannick Ngakoue were the main guys who were getting pressures. Even though the Colts and the defense played poorly as a whole, DeForest Buckner still played a major impact on the field. If you had guys like Kenny Clark or Jonathan Allen above him, I wouldn't be mad. However, I value the pass rush ability that DeForest Buckner has, and so I have him at 10. I have Quinnen Williams at 9. Quinnen Williams is an elite run defender and nose tackle for the Miami Dolphins. He did only put up 3.5 sacks in 2023. However, he had 17.5 stuffs, which even outweighed his pressures. That's where most of his value comes from. He's an elite run defender and probably the top nose tackle in the league. Whether it's stuffs or stops at the line of scrimmage or tackles for loss, Quinnen Williams is always going to be at the top, especially for plays ending in the line of scrimmage. Not to mention, Quinnen Williams is also hilarious. So I'm going to have him at 9. At number 8, I'm going to have Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave for the Eagles had an elite season last year. He put up 11 sacks with 18 pressures, with 10 tackles for loss and 16 QB hits. The Eagles' defensive line as a whole was really good last year. 4 guys put up double-digit sacks, including Javon Hargrave in the interior. Him and Fletcher Cox were just really hard to stop for guards and centers. As well as being a good run defender, Javon Hargrave is an elite pass rusher. He recently just signed a really huge deal with the San Francisco 49ers. He inked a 4-year, $84 million deal with the 49ers. And a double-digit sack guy in Hargrave joining the number 1 defense in the NFL is going to be a problem. Javon Hargrave probably puts up another 10-digit sack season, and the 49ers defense probably reigns supreme at number 1. So I'm going to have Javon Hargrave at 8. I'm going to have Cameron Heyward coming in at 7. Cameron Heyward has just consistently been one of the best players in the league, period. In the last 6 years, he's made 6 Pro Bowls, and in 2021, he was a first-team All-Pro. In 2022, he had 10.5 sacks to go along with 30 pressures, which was good for 4th for interior defensive tackles. And with the absence of TJ Watt, Cameron Heyward was still able to put up a really good amount of production, as well as still being an elite run defender with 14 tackles for loss. Now, at 34 years old, we wonder when Cameron Heyward's production will start to slow down. He hasn't showed much signs of slowing down. He's put up double-digit sacks in the last 2 years. And he's still got a lot of juice in the pass rush game. But we've seen guys like Calais Campbell take that step back when they turn 35. But I think we're likely still going to see another good season from Cameron Heyward in 2023. So I'm going to have him at 7. I'm going to have Daron Payne coming in at 6. The former first rounder out of Alabama had his breakout season in 2022. He put up 11.5 sacks, which was 12th in the league, with 25 pressures and 18 tackles for loss. Payne just signed a 4-year, $90 million contract with the Washington Commanders. And Payne, along with Jonathan Allen, led one of the best defensive line units in 2022. Washington allowed the 3rd least yards per game. They allowed the worst 3rd down conversion success rate. And they were top 10 in points allowed. And that was especially helped by their elite defensive line unit, with Jonathan Allen leading the way, leading the team in tackles for loss and sacks. I predict that it'll be well worth his contract, and that he'll have another elite season in 2023. So he'll come in at 6. Starting off my top 5, I have Jeffery Simmons. Jeffery Simmons is one of those guys who is a top 3 run defender, yet a top 5 pass rusher at the same time. Simmons made his 2nd Pro Bowl in 2022. He had 7.5 sacks and had 21 pressures. He also had 9 stuffs. Impact-wise, Jeffery Simmons is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He's consistently in the quarterback's face or blowing up a run at the line of scrimmage. And in the last 2 years, he's just been one of those guys who makes a very good impact on a down-to-down basis. And since Jeffery Simmons is both elite as a pass rusher and a run defender, he'll always be impactful on every down. So that's why I have Jeffery Simmons at 5. Speaking about another elite run defender and pass rusher, we're going to talk about Dexter Lawrence, who's coming in at 4th on my list. After putting up 3 quiet seasons with the Giants, Dexter Lawrence broke out in 2022. He had 7.5 sacks to go along with 36 pressures. That was good for 11th in the league. He was a 2nd-team All-Pro in 2022 and also made his first Pro Bowl. Dexter Lawrence also signed a new 4-year, $90 million contract with the New York Giants. And for somebody that's that elite as a pass rusher and almost being top 10 in pressures is going to be worth that contract. It'll be interesting to see if Dexter Lawrence can make yet another All-Pro list, which I predict he will do. So I'm going to have him at 4. I have Quinnen Williams coming in at third on my list. Quinnen Williams was that anchor to the Jets' top 5 defense in 2022. He put up 12 sacks, which was 11th in the league, to go along with 31 pressures, which was third for interior defensive tackles, and 16th in the league. Quinnen Williams has always been good, it's just his stats fully haven't been there. He's always been up there in advanced statistics and production numbers, but I think Robert Saleh has finally figured out how to use Quinnen Williams, as they played him in over 70% of the snaps, when previously they had him under that mark. Now when Quinnen is on the field, he's always making an impact, especially on third downs when they really need him. And then he was really good in the run game with 11 tackles for loss. But Quinnen is going to make his money through his elite pass rushing ability. He's got really good technique at the position, and he has a lot of pass rush moves that some defensive linemen can't even do. His elite athleticism allows him to do these things. He was a Pro Bowler in 2022 for the first time in his career, and also made a first-team All-Pro. Now he is still waiting on that mega contract that he should be paid. He'll likely get within the $100 million range, and he might break the record for the highest amount of money paid for a defensive tackle. This may be a shock, but I have Aaron Donald coming in at 2. Aaron Donald has consistently been one of the most dominant players in NFL history. Every year he's been in the league, he's been a Pro Bowler, he's made 7 All-Pro lists, he's won multiple Defensive Player of the Years, and he's double-teamed 80% of the time. But I don't know, I saw a little bit of a decline within his play in 2022. Even though he was injured and missed 6 games, he only put up 5 sacks and 16 pressures, and 10 tackles for loss in 2022. Now, it wasn't the fact that he got injured. I think he is showing some signs of decline. I mean, it's Aaron Donald. You can only decline from, the best defensive tackle to a top 3 defensive tackle. But it just seemed like those double teams were getting to him more than often. He was flirting with retirement after the Super Bowl in 2022, and the Rams are starting to begin the rebuild, and it seems like Aaron Donald might retire pretty soon. Could this be the last year Aaron Donald plays? We don't know, so I'm going to have him at 2. And then at number 1, I'm going to have Chris Jones. Chris Jones put up a year for the ages. He had 15.5 sacks, which was tied for 4th in the league, which was number 1 for all defensive tackles. He led all defensive tackles in pressures, and he also had 17 tackles for loss. He finished 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was a first-team All-Pro, and he made a Pro Bowl. Outside of 2018, 2022 was Chris Jones' best year by far. He was the number 1 reason why that young Chiefs defense performed so well in 2022. He had a year similar to Aaron Donald in dominance level. However, Chris Jones was likely a top 5 pass rusher purely, even as a defensive tackle. Sometimes he would even play at the 5 tech, which is the defensive end position, or he would play even at the nose. But it really didn't matter where he was aligned, he would still get pressure on the quarterback. As a pure pass rusher, Chris Jones is the best interior defensive tackle, and that's why I have him at number 1. But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you go watch the other top 10 lists that I have on my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.